This program is part of American Graduate. Let's make it happen. A public media initiative made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Support for this program is provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and from viewers like you.
Hello and welcome to a special town hall edition of Louisiana Public Square. I'm Shauna Sanford, co-anchor of Louisiana, the state we're in.
And I'm Barry Irwin, president of the Council for a Better Louisiana. Earlier this month, the Louisiana Department of Education announced that the state's high school graduation rate has reached an all-time high of 74.6%. That's good news, but our graduation rate still lags behind the national average of 81%.
That's right. Well, the American Graduate Initiative is a long-term commitment by the nation's public media to share solutions to the dropout dilemma. LPB is proud to present tonight's program as part of the American Graduate effort. Over the next hour, we'll hear from former dropouts and at-risk students who overcame obstacles to their graduation path, and we'll meet some of the champions who are helping Louisiana students get back on track. A teen mother with a 2-month-old baby, Brittney Davis, dropped out of high school just as she was starting her junior year.
And I couldn't focus. Then I would be tired from staying up with her all night. I would be sleeping in class. It just was horrible.
But after seeing how much the Louisiana National Guard's Youth Challenge program helped her younger brother, Brittney thought it could also help her get a high school diploma.
The Louisiana Youth Challenge program helped me stay on track towards graduation by teaching me structure. Like, I always had to do what I was told, so it became a habit for me to be successful and do the right thing.
The program lasts 17 months and requires that for at least 5 months the cadets live at one of the 3 National Guard locations around the state. Students learn 8 core components, including academic excellence and job and life coping skills.
They taught us how to deal with different attitudes. Like, when you're at work, you know, you're going to deal with different attitudes, and you just have to cope with it instead of, running away from your problems.
Thanks to the Youth Challenge program, Brittney has passed the high school equivalency test and will join the Army in June. Another feather in her cap, Brittney is part of the record number of Louisiana high school students who graduated in 2014. State Education Superintendent John White shared the good news with state legislators.
Yesterday we announced a 1.1% increase in our state's high school graduation rate. That is the 4th consecutive year in which the graduation rate has gone up. 3,500 kids more today graduate than did in 2011.
Graduation rates for minority students improved by 2%, while students with disabilities saw a 6% increase. Louisiana's graduation rate of nearly 75% is an improvement, but still lags behind the national average of 81%. The flip side of that good news is that 18 school districts, including Baton Rouge, saw graduation rates decline in 2014.
When the department analyzed some of the student dropout data last year, what we recognized was that 40% of our 8th graders that are retained on an 8th grade campus never even made it to high school. Much less graduate, they never even made it to high school.
Ken Bradford, Assistant Superintendent of Louisiana's Education Department, says the state has approved a transitional 9th grade process that targets 8th graders who may call it quits. They're allowed to advance into high school while taking remediation courses.
So in essence, what this is doing is this gives them that extra year, exposing them on the high school campus. It's not keeping them on the middle school. And this is one of the things that's going to continue to help increasing our high school graduation rate and reducing our dropout rates.
To keep students more engaged in high school and become job ready after graduation, the state started the Jumpstart Program in 2014. School districts work with businesses and industries in their areas to design a set of courses that align with industry credentials.
Rather than the Department of Education provide them a prescriptive set of courses and say, you must take this block of 9 courses to graduate. We're saying, work with business and industry, work with your post-secondary institutions. You tell us what the 9 courses are these students are going to need to be able to go out and work in that craft.
John Brooks is a Jumpstart student from East Ascension High working on his welding certification.
Welding's like one of them things that you can like brag on. You know, not everybody can do it. It's more of an art.
The Jumpstart approach better suits John's style of learning.
Really don't like sitting in a classroom, sitting around, you know, learning out a book. I'd rather take the hands-on approach.
So why do students drop out? The National Dropout Prevention Center discovered that personal or family issues tend to pull students out, or they are pushed out because of a lack of academic skills or discipline problems.
In school, the biggest challenge I faced was staying out of trouble.
David Thomas is a college graduate who was brought back on track in the 5th grade by a mentor with the Big Buddy program.
He was like, well, okay, if you continue getting in trouble with school, this is most likely where you end up. He showed me that things aren't just given to you. You have to earn it.
In his 20s and now waiting to get into medical school, David still regularly talks to his mentor, the person he credits with keeping him on track to getting his high school diploma.
I wouldn't have made it to college. I wouldn't have been able to play college ball. I wouldn't have been able to work here or anywhere that I worked before after graduating. So I feel it was a key step towards my goal. It's like the first step towards the goal, career path that I want.
For students who have already dropped out of school, many districts offer dropout recovery programs. They involve graduation coaches and customized coursework. Currently, these programs are optional, but a bill introduced this session would make them mandatory for schools with a graduation rate below 85%.
Life for me was very hard growing up. I had an abusive father. He was an alcoholic. We was more on the poor side. It was just a daily struggle.
Destinee Heaton dropped out of school at age 15, got married, and then entered the workforce. Her journey back to school was based on simple economics.
I didn't have a high school diploma. Nobody would hire me other than restaurants, construction worker. By the time I was 26, I was a single mom to 3 kids. So sometimes I worked 2 to 3 jobs, waiting tables just to make ends meet.
Destinee entered the Louisiana Community and Technical College System's Work Ready U program, earned her high school equivalency, and will graduate with a business degree from Mansfield Technical College in May. While she's proud of her accomplishments, Destinee wants to serve as a role model to her 3 children.
I want them to see that no matter where you come from, where you've been, or who you was, that you can be anything you want to be. As long as you set your mind to it, you can do it. So I'd like for them to take inspiration from me and apply it towards themselves as they get older.
Great advice for anyone, and our thanks to all of the students who shared their inspirational stories. Well, joining us here tonight in studio, we have a great panel of experts to really help us dig deeper into this very, very important topic. They include Frank Finney. He is president of the Louisiana School Counselor Association. He is a counselor with the Livingston Parish School District. Gail Flowers is the Director of Career, Adult, and Alternative Education for Caddo Parish Public Schools. She also established Northwest Louisiana's regional Jumpstart program focused on workforce development. Dominique Ricks is a true success story. On the verge of dropping out of school, he received support from the Baton Rouge Youth Coalition, graduated from the University of Wisconsin, and now teaches 7th grade English in Iberville Parish. Jeannie Solis is Director of Health Education Services for the Central Louisiana Area Health Education Center. She oversees a federal grant aimed at preventing pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases among teens. And Dr. Alonzo Luce is Superintendent of St. James Parish Schools, which saw a 4% increase in its graduation rate in 2014. We thank you all for being here. I know that our studio audience is really excited about tonight's topic, but before we get to our audience questions, just briefly, each one of you, share with us from your perspective, what's the biggest challenge to keeping students in school? Dr. Luce?
I would say kids not having hope and purpose. If they have hope and they have a purpose, they'll go through whatever obstacle it is. So I think a lot of other things become symptoms of the problem, but that's really the biggest thing. If they have true hope and true purpose, they will succeed.
Jeannie?
Well, building on that, we know that if you find out you're pregnant when you're in high school, that can pose a lot of challenges. And we also know that about half of the girls who become pregnant as teens end up dropping out of school. So anytime we can give the education and skills to prevent that situation, we want to do it to help them reach their graduation goal.
Dominique, from a personal perspective.
From a personal perspective, a lot of students can't see where they're going past their environment. As a 7th grade English teacher, I have kids right now who have told me they don't think they're going to go anywhere in life, that they feel like they're going to go to jail at some point because every male they've met in their life has gone to jail. So I feel like your personal environment has a huge impact on what you see as a possibility for success.
Gail?
And I see young people of all walks of life that don't feel engaged in school, they don't feel a sense of belonging, they feel outside. And so without that sense of belonging, they don't have that hope that makes them persevere and stick with it, participate on a daily basis, and plan for their future.
Frank?
I would have to agree with Gail that it's that lack of engagement where students, if they don't see the real world application of what they're learning in the classroom, and then to build upon that I think kind of what was highlighted by the young man with the Big Buddy program, that adult relationship. If they're not engaged with an adult that shows that they care, that values them as a person and their future, that you're going to see a higher chance of dropout regardless of the circumstances.
Yeah, mentorship, very important. Well, on that note, we asked LSU to do a survey on the same topic and the same question. And Barry, I know that you have the results of that survey.
Well, that's right, Shauna. The LSU Public Policy Research Lab very recently did a survey statewide of residents here in Louisiana to ask some questions about that very subject, about high school graduation and dropout rates, and the findings were actually very interesting. We look at some of the results of the poll. When asked the primary reason students drop out of school, lack of motivation topped the list, followed by problems at home, and the third most popular reason given was that they need to work to earn money. When asked who is primarily responsible for decreasing the school dropout rate, 71%, the majority of respondents said the parents, 10% said the government, 9% said the student, and only 8% said the schools are primarily responsible. And when asked when students should be targeted with anti-dropout programs, 46% said middle school or junior high, followed by elementary school and high school. Very interesting numbers there, and somebody to talk a little bit about some of that is Trudy. Could you introduce yourself, Trudy, and tell us who you work with?
My name is Trudy Wickham. I work with CLAHAC. We do a teen pregnancy prevention program through the National Guard Youth Challenge program.
Well, it was interesting in the LSU survey, some interesting things came up, but it didn't mention teen pregnancy per se, but I'm sure that's a very familiar topic with what you're dealing with and what you see. Tell me some of the challenges that you deal with, and you know a lot of the students, the kids themselves deal with when they get themselves in this situation and they're trying to balance a lot of different things.
Yes, in the video, Brittney was one of our cadets that went through the program, and the challenge that they find is that, first of all, they don't know anything about how to raise a child, and then they have to deal with child care. Not all parents and grandparents are going to take on the responsibility of raising another child so that the mother can or the father can do some other things to help their own lives. So that gets to be a challenge. And then money is always a factor. They can't earn the living that they need to take care of themselves and their child because they don't have the education. So it's just a horrible situation to be in. And then oftentimes their friends start to move away because they're not doing all the fun things that they used to do because they have to take care of a child.
Very interesting there, and I know that sounds familiar to a lot of the folks on our panel. Dr. Luce, let me just ask you real quickly. You have to deal with the situation as a superintendent in St. James Parish. How do schools accommodate with kids in these types of situations? And I know you do see them.
Yeah, some of the things that we do, we have a virtual school program. So we have students with many different types of issues. So some of the things we do, the mentorship is one of the biggest issues, and if we do have an adult that has a relationship with a student, but in some cases the students cannot come to school, and if they can't, we have a virtual school program where they can still continue their studies, and we mentor them while they're at work and they are at school at different points of time.
Jeannie, I know it's familiar to the work that you do. Heard about the challenges. There are success stories, though, aren't there?
There are absolutely success stories, and the good news is that In the United States, we are making improvements right now in our teen pregnancy and teen birth rates. They're going down. And Louisiana is also decreasing its rates slightly, but we have a lot of work to do. We're still number 6 in the country in teen births.
Sean?
All right, well, thank you. And I have with me Zephyrus Scott. So great to have you here with us tonight. And you participated in the Baton Rouge Youth Coalition program, same program that our panelist here, Dominique, participated in. Tell us, what was that experience like for you?
What was the experience like? Wow. Well, when I first went to BRIC, I was like, I don't see no point in me going to this. I don't want to go to college. And then I started going, and I really enjoyed it. It was like getting a whole new family. That was the best part. And not only did I get a whole new family that would lift me up and help me when I needed the help, they pushed me to go further in life. And I saw, there's more to Louisiana, there's more to LSU and Southern. I can go somewhere and do something.
Yeah, and so on that note, I know that you have a question for our panelists about encouraging students, right?
Yes, I do.
What is that question?
I would like to know, what do you all think could help students in the schools, like, to be motivated to not only graduate high school, but also motivate them to graduate college too?
Dominique, let's start with you, because you attended this program.
Yes. If you want to help students be motivated beyond high school, I think it's important to talk about things beyond high school. A big problem that I see inside of our schools is that the scope is so limited. It's a problem I experienced back when I was in high school. It seemed like the only focus the administration ever had was graduation. And personally, I felt some type of way about that, because I felt that at the end, after I graduated, it was all about improving numbers and not about improving my outcome. And I feel the same thing is happening to our students now. I think the best way for us to improve their motivation for the real world is to actually give them some experience with the real world. Introduce them to somebody they might not have met in their own community. Somebody who's a lawyer or a doctor from their community that can show them, hey, this is possible. This isn't just something that you see on sitcoms.
Right, yeah. And so we were talking a little bit about that, Frank, about mentorship and how important it really is. And we heard that from the young man in the piece there. He is still in touch with his mentor to this day. It makes a world of difference.
It does. In 2001, there was a longitudinal study. Results were released that showed that if students were engaged with at least one adult on their campus, their school campus, their dropout rate was decreased by 50%. That's drastic. And so being able to engage with students and then to teach them early, and I know that it was mentioned in the research from LSU about elementary, the sooner that we can get to students and teach them resiliency skills, those skills that are beyond, that take them beyond their circumstances, that teach them efficacy, that idea of who I am and what is possible with me, and then also teaching them that self-determination, that they alone are responsible for seeing that their dreams come to fruition and be a reality. And so mentors are very integral in that process.
Well, if we know that it works, are we doing a good job, an effective job of using mentors? Gail?
I don't think we are yet. I think there are pockets of excellence around the state, and you're hearing from a number of folks as well as students that have been involved in those. But it's not widespread, and it's not enough for the population that we serve. We have those pockets of excellence, so we need to learn those best practices and then institutionalize those across the state so that every student gets those early experiences.
All right, Barry, you have our next question.
Yeah, Debbie Connor is with the Up Alliance, a group here in Baton Rouge that does a lot of work in this area. Could you tell us a little bit first, Debbie, what your group does and some of the strategies that y'all are involved with in trying to deal with some of these issues?
Sure. Up Alliance is a program that coordinates efforts across the greater Baton Rouge area to help individuals that exited the school system too soon. So we focus solely on adults, definitely ages 16 and up, ideally a little bit older than that. We like to work with students that are ready for the services that we have to offer. And this leads into my question. We do find that often the students that come to us, they're doing so after being away from the school system for quite some time. Sometimes that's a good thing. They need that time to become more self-motivated and to have that self-efficacy that you mentioned that I'm a big fan of as well. And then the downside of that, however, is that, the longer they're away from school, the more they lose in terms of their academic levels. And so we have to grapple with that a little bit just to gain ground back. And so I'm just wondering if anyone on the panel has some suggestions on how we might, as adult education providers, partner better with the K-12 system and dropout prevention programs, so maybe we can get those individuals in our programs a little bit sooner, provide a better safety net. Despite best efforts, there will be dropouts just because of life circumstances, and I'm just wondering what we can do better.
Sure. Gail, do you have any thoughts along those lines? You're involved with a lot of that.
I definitely am. And there are a lot of things that work, and it takes a lot of persistence to put them in place. Experiences where they're engaged with employers early on so that they see the potential of that continuation. Attendance is their biggest hurdle because other aspects of life pull them away from attending and really meeting their educational goals. So those experiences with employers, that close connection. Every one of our adult ed teachers is also a certified professional counselor, and I find that that helps them connect with the students and pull them in. They also need to see what post-secondary life is like. Our adult ed program is on the technical college campus for that reason, but we have strong partnerships with the other post-secondaries in our area. So those are some of the things that work, but there are certainly more.
Frank, do you have any thoughts along those lines too? I know you deal with a lot of that same type of an issue.
Yeah, I would agree with what she's saying, definitely. But I also think that the earlier that we can begin career and technical education, starting as early as 4 and 5 years old, most students, by the time they're 5 years old, have already determined what they can not and what they can do based upon gender stereotypes, based upon ethnic stereotypes, based upon socioeconomic backgrounds, what they see around them. And so it's important the sooner that we can begin to educate students and show them what are the possibilities, what are the potentials, I think the more that we'll see a brighter future for Louisiana and see more students that be able to see why school is important, why education is important, and regardless of circumstances, stick it out. Have that, I guess, that stick-to-itness, if that's even a word.
Absolutely. Thanks. Shauna?
Well, talk about challenging circumstances. Keisha Coleman is here with us. It's so great to have you here with us. And I want to say, very proud to say that you are a former LPB Young Hero. So it's wonderful, and that's, of course, a program where we honor students all across the state for doing outstanding things in their communities. So it's great to have you here with us. Frank was just mentioning challenges, and you had a medical crisis that kept you out of school for some time, right?
Right. During Hurricane Katrina, which happened in 2005, I suffered from a ruptured brain aneurysm. It was a lot of stress, just helping out, and so much hurt in our state as a whole. But during the school year, I missed half a year of school. I had to attend physical therapy, speech therapy, and occupational therapy. So I had to learn how to do everything all over again. So graduating from high school was not in my foresight. I didn't think that I could actually graduate on time with my class, let alone graduate, period. So that's what I really struggled with.
And I want to make mention of the fact that you are a teacher.
Yes,
You currently teach 7th grade, is that right?
Yes.
So you have a lot in common with Dominique up there and experiencing the issues that students deal with when it comes to this particular issue. What is your question for the panelists?
Well, I know a lot of students miss school due to family issues, due to just wanting to be out because they don't feel like they can succeed. So my question is, to what level are we holding our schools, our teachers, as well as the parents and the students accountable?
Dr. Luce.
I think instead of just holding them accountable, how do we encourage and inspire them to do those type of things? And some of the things we do is we have students that we bus to Nicholls State University, to the community college at River Parish, to the technical college at Reserve, and they see what they can do. I think the other thing is, how do we treat people that have whether it's a health issue or those type of things. Again, our virtual school program, we have a student with sickle cell anemia that can't hardly go to school, but maybe 1 day a week, 2 days a week. That student's able to continue. Another one that's maybe in the hospital, and we are still able to continue and let them move forward.
Yeah, Dominique, is this an issue that comes up for you as well?
Yes, I dealt with similar issues in my youth, like as far as like deterring me from education, nothing health-wise. But now I'm a teacher, and I have a student that has intestinal issues that has him out of school every other day. Literally, we've been teaching almost the entire school year. I might have saw him a total of 9 weeks.
Wow.
So it's definitely an issue. And I do worry about the safeguards that are in place for a kid like this, one that already struggles with behavioral issues.
Yeah.
There's no telling what somebody like that can end up. They have the health issues on top of it.
Yeah, health issues. Jeannie, I mean, this is a serious issue that we really need to address.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think whenever we can help to identify our talents, our passions, and turn that into our goals and keep us on the track to education. That's absolutely vital. And whenever we can overcome those health challenges, that's so important, and congratulations to you on overcoming that. So we want to help our children to have the skills, the knowledge, and the access to good behaviors and good choices, healthy choices.
Right, and I think the message here is that the students can overcome. They face these obstacles, but they can overcome, and you are a living testimony to that. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Barry?
Well, thanks, Shauna. Standing next to me now is somebody whose face might not be all that familiar, but the name I'm sure certainly is. Corey Webster. How many years were you in the NFL?
9 years with the Giants.
And you're back in Baton Rouge now?
Yes, sir. Back here, getting my master's degree from LSU.
Well, that sounds good. It's great to have you back. Well, the reason you're here is you are working with Boys Club, or Boys Hope, Girls Hope, right? As a mentor, and we heard mentoring is one of the key strategies involved a little bit earlier. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the experiences you've had, what it's meant to you, and also what you've seen out of kids?
Just for starters, I mean, we coming from the sports background, we had mentors all over, and we was able to look up to different people. But I just wanted to use my platform to be able to provide that same for a kid that may not have that type of exposure to it. So what Boys Hope and Girls Hope does now is they prepare kids for career skills, life skills, as well as prepare them for to take on a 4-year institution as in college. And I think it's very important for our mentors to be out there to just give the experience of what they have been through, and hopefully to help any kid that is coming behind them and make their transition or their life just a little bit easier. So it's been a big passion of mine, just because coming from the Louisiana area that this is my home, and I want to see it does better. And our scores hadn't been what they needed to be, and I was able to be exposed to the New Jersey, the Tri-State, and they have very high scores. So I want to be able to help and do a little bit of that here, and that's what Boys Hope, Girls Hope are doing right now, and we're trying to do it on a bigger scale.
I guess you've had a lot of experiences with a lot of these kids, huh?
I have a lot. Yes, sir. I see a lot of kids, talk to a lot of kids, and we do different MIE tours where we go to different schools to try to motivate, inspire, empower, and that's where we go. Let them hear our stories, let them know that it wasn't always an easy ride for us as well. And I think it's the platform that I've been blessed with. Just gets their attention and able to help them along the way.
And you had a question you wanted to pose?
I do. They have so many different organizations, and when I was coming about, it was trying to hard. I wanted to kind of partner. I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I wanted to, just kind of partner with people that was already doing good things. How hard it is for you guys to decipher through all the different, organization groups, or to try to have the right people on your campuses and stuff like that. I want to know how tough is that?
Yeah, Dr. Luce, how is it to try and deal with all the different organizations that want to come and do good?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Corey. Corey graduated from St. James High School.
Homecoming for sure.
So that's been wonderful. That is very complicated to work through the process with what adults that we have. So we really do that through our adults that we know, through the pastors in our community, and through the adults, educators that we have. We go out and find people like Corey who have done great things in the community, and we bring those in. So we kind of do it that way. And what's the main difficulty with that, though, is to get people who will stay with a student. A lot of people want to start and say they want a mentor, but that is a hard job, especially for someone to stay with a student all the way through the process.
Frank, let me ask you from your experiences. Obviously, Corey comes from an athletic background. We'll talk a little bit about athletics. What role does that play, or can it play, in some of these strategies in high school, even junior high and earlier, to help kids kind of stay on track?
It plays a huge role. It's a motivator for those kids. They want to play ball, and they want to be a part of the team. They want that's something that they're connected to. Oftentimes, the students that struggle the most academically, that's their one thing. That's the thing that they have that keeps them coming back. Maybe they have a poor home life. I know for me personally in high school, that was my escape. I was probably the worst football player ever to play football, but it gave me the opportunity and the chance to be involved in something bigger than myself. And with that came relationship with coaches that filled that father figure for me, that maybe I didn't have all the time growing up. My dad worked out of state a lot, and so they filled a big void in my life. And they also were there for me when I needed them the most. And I see it now all the time as a school counselor, that the students that are struggling, maybe they play a sport, I know I can call on that coach, and the coach is going to come and be an integral, I guess, kind of part of the process of making sure that student is successful and getting on the right track.
Corey, I guess you've seen a lot of that at all levels, huh?
I'm seeing it at all levels. But yes, sir, he's absolutely right about what you said about, being able to be sports have coaches there to keep you accountable. So we want to provide that same thing. That's why I'm trying to work with myself as well as Boys Hope, Girls Hope to provide that same thing like, the coaches provide for the different players and stuff like that, so kids can have another outlet for us to lean on.
That's great. Shauna?
All right. Well, thanks. Well, speaking of Boys Hope, Girls Hope, I have DeMarcus Shepard here with me, and he is a residential scholar with Boys Hope, Girls Hope. And what grade are you in, and where do you go to school?
I'm 11th grade, and I go to Catholic high school.
And how long have you been with the program?
Since 6th grade.
And so what has that experience been like for you?
It's been overall a great experience. Definitely helped me definitely provided some of the necessary resources to achieve and excel in school.
Yeah. And so what's your question for our panelists tonight?
My question is, what is the overall positive or negative effects that extracurricular activities have on students?
That can be challenging for some students. Who wants to take that one? Yes, Dominique.
I would say the effect can be very, very positive. It all depends on how you balance. I was lucky enough to have a mentor that ended up being my poetry coach 11th grade year of high school. After a few months of really falling in love with poetry, the extracurricular took up all my time. And it was great. And the result of that was I got a full ride scholarship to the University of Wisconsin-Madison fall of my senior year, so not even a whole year later. Extracurriculars can be very powerful, and it's very important to follow something you're passionate about as long as you can maintain that balance. That balance is everything when it comes to extracurriculars.
Well, how do you do that? Because it can be very easy to get off balance. Gail, how do you do that?
Well, I think it's from those relationships with your teachers, your parents, your mentor, helping you see not to do too much, but to really pursue what you're interested in. And hopefully you have learned to listen to yourself and what works for you. And you have that feeling of listening to your body and listening to your own mental health to help guide you.
Yeah, and so you are involved in sports now, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And what's the struggle for you?
Just having to balance the time between athletics and academics.
Making time for both. And I guess, again, that's where mentorship can really come in and help students find that kind of balance. And I think it was Dr. Luce that you mentioned that it can be difficult to find a mentor to stay in touch with that student for the duration. So what is the answer there? How do we overcome that obstacle?
Well, I think going back to the extracurricular activities, if you find something in the passion that was talked about earlier, if we find a passion that the person has and it becomes an internal thing, we may not need the mentor as much. And we should have all the adults at the school. There should be relationships with all the teachers. So there's got to be some relationships, whether it's a coach or whoever the adult is there on campus.
Yeah. DeMarcus, thank you so much for your question. Barry?
Thanks, Sean. I'm here with Lauren Bro from St. Tammany Parish, and she is brought to us through the Legislative Youth Advisory Council, which I've had the opportunity to work with, and it's a great group of folks. And I understand you have a question.
Yes. My school is very known for passing kids through. If you fail out of the other school in my parish, they're known to come to my school so they can pass high school. I would just like to hear comments on what you have to say about that.
That kind of passing kids from one place to another, or not keeping them and moving them on. Dr. Luce?
Well, when you say passing them, do you mean graduating them from high school, or you mean just moving them to another school that they kind of move through?
Graduating.
If they graduate, that can be a positive thing if it's a school that does meet the need for a second chance, that it's a school that accepts kids from wherever they are and gives kids a second chance. I think that could be a positive thing. It's just, are they connected, and are they connected to post-secondary or a future, whether it's an industry or what does it do for them? But I think it could be a positive.
I wanted to ask that because this gets into something that's actually somewhat new in our state. There's a program called Jumpstart, which I think a lot of people have heard about, but probably more people have not. But it's a very promising thing that I think does try to get with kids while they're still in high school, connect them with job possibilities, or at least expose them to some opportunities and some training and some skills that they might not have otherwise. One, to keep them in school, but also to prepare them and familiarize them with the workforce. Gail, I know you're heavily involved with that. You want to talk a little bit about Jumpstart in our state and what, it's still early, but what we're seeing out of that?
It is early, but Jumpstart is very powerful in terms of making opportunities happen for students. It's a partnership, and in Northwest Louisiana we are 9 parish strong with 3 2-year post-secondaries, 3 4-year post-secondaries, and then employers. And the employers are in our high demand, high wage opportunities: manufacturing, construction, transportation, healthcare, information technology, because that cuts across all sectors, as well as energy, which has been a backbone of our economy. And so the focus is not just on career, but it's on college and career. Not college or career, but both, because we want young people to move into living wage positions, career positions, not jobs. And so that partnership gives a pathway. And as you mentioned earlier, when they are involved in career technical education that shows them opportunities for their future, they are more likely to stay in school, succeed in school, and proceed. And we know that that can be a powerful opportunity for young people. We know that they need career awareness in elementary. They need career exploration in middle school. Get out there, try out some things, get a feel for it. Even if you learn it's not for you, that's a valuable lesson for your future. And then in high school, that career preparation that leads to continued education and a real career ladder that's meaningful.
I think there are efforts going on in our schools now more so than ever before. Would you agree in terms of this area and the sensitivity and the understanding of that?
And there's a focus on industry certifications. In our part of the state, we were the first to offer any industry certifications at the high school level and dual enrollment. And giving students an opportunity to earn college credit in high school lets them know that they can do it. And earning that industry certification gives them a value-added component to their high school diploma to take to an employer to say, this is what I know, this is what I can do, this is the value that I can bring to your business.
Well, that's really encouraging. Shauna?
Well, thanks. And joining me now is Wallace Meyers, and you're with the Legislative Youth Advisory Council. It's great to have you here. You traveled from, is it Lake Arthur? Did I get that right?
Right, yes, ma'am. It's in Jeff Davis Parish, and I'm from Southwest Louisiana, where there's many job opportunities right now for 4-year degrees, 2-year degrees, and even students just getting out of high school. But my question for you is, as a senior in high school, there's so many opportunities for us to take dual enrollment classes, and even if you're looking to go to trade school, there's opportunities there. But what programs, maybe the Jumpstart program is something geared more towards that can happen earlier, like such as 9th grade and even 8th grade, in promoting ways for students that are not planning on necessarily going to college, but that way they can focus more on jobs after they get out of high school and a trade.
And so, Frank, let's start with you, because I think you mentioned earlier that it's so important that we reach kids early in this and inspire and encourage them to stay motivated.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where, unfortunately, you kind of fell in a little bit of a gap, that the Jumpstart initiative really is taking place and has been full force of the current 9th graders. And so not that a senior in your position couldn't take advantage of some of the course offerings, it's that push from 8th to 9th grade and expanding students' horizons and being able to see what other opportunities exist in high school has really just kind of on the forefront, just starting to launch. And so I think that, you know, the earlier that we can begin to expose students to what opportunities exist, that many of them will realize that, you know, what it is that I really want to do, connecting their personality, connecting their interests to applications or careers that they may be more interested in, and understanding what it is that I need to do as a individual to get to where I want to be, and making realistic goals as well.
Yeah. And so right now, though, there isn't any program per se in place, or
well, there's programs in place. They are in place. It's just that for someone that, say, for instance, he's a senior,
right?
You know, he could take advantage of some of the course offerings, but catching it from the very beginning and moving through it, you know, it's those students that are now beginning high school or about to get into high school really are going to be able to take full advantage of some of the career and technical opportunities.
Gail, you wanted to jump in?
Well, and there are opportunities that start earlier. Certainly in our middle schools we have career awareness courses, but too often it's left up to the students to decide if they want to take it. Sometimes it's not the most capable teacher in the school that's assigned to teach that course. It needs to be given more importance in the school curriculum so that all students take it. It's a high quality course and it's taught at a very rigorous level. We also have programs like Project Lead the Way, which has pre-engineering, biomedical, computer science, and they start in elementary school with Launch, where there are units that get young people involved even in elementary school, then lead into middle school, the Gateway programs, and then into high school where they have the pre-engineering programs for each grade level. We have a number of different types of opportunities like that, but again, they're in pockets of excellence. They're not yet widespread throughout the state. So we need to expand those so that students do have those early interests. With junior achievement, we have young people that are involved in financial literacy and economic education, elementary through high school. But again, you have kind of a shotgun approach to that across the state. The dots need to be connected so that students benefit consistently.
What's the greatest obstacle to connecting those dots?
I think it's leadership, and it's getting everybody to the table to talk, and that's one of the benefits of Jumpstart. You pull folks together to look at the resources your community has to offer and aim them in the same direction so that students benefit.
All right, Barry.
We're here now with a student from the Louisiana Leadership Institute here in Baton Rouge, which is an organization that works to help kids improve their academic skills and self-esteem and a lot of different things. What's your name, and you have a question?
My name is Brielle Self, and me being a high school student, my question is, what can students do to help their peers who are showing signs of dropping out?
It's a really good question. Let me ask Dominic first.
I would say stay concerned and continue the conversation. I was probably one of the most at-risk kids at my school, dealing with my mom's alcoholism. My dad had heart problems and diabetes, and my brother was in and out of jail. So I had to deal with taking care of my little sister when she didn't really have parents to take care of her. I would come to school every day completely upset. Didn't know what the ACT was in 12th grade. Took the practice in 10th grade, scored a 12, but nobody ever told me what it was. So that meant nothing to me. The best thing you can do for somebody that might be showing signs of dropping out is staying concerned and make sure that you keep that line of conversation open, because you never know what you might be able to educate somebody on. Because something that you know is like such basic knowledge might just be that grain of wisdom somebody really needs right now.
Let me ask Jeannie. I know Gail wanted to jump in on this too, but I'm sure you see some of this too. Kids, they want to help their peers as well. Are there other things that they can do to help?
Absolutely, and there's something that's actually growing in our state right now called Youth Mental Health First Aid, and people 16 years and older can be trained to be a mental health first aider. And really that's about just kind of assessing when someone seems stressed out, listening to them, giving support to help them get through that stressful time. Maybe educating about some options to get support from counselors or others who might be able to offer it, and encouraging them to continue on. So definitely there's hope.
Gail, I think you wanted to say something.
And I see a lot of young people in here that I am sure are involved in student organizations in their schools. And as leaders in those organizations, they can make sure that their members know the signs of dropping out so that they can watch for those with their peers and provide that connection for them. So I think we can take a leadership role even as students to make sure that others know what those signs of a dropout are and how we can pull other students back into the mix. If they feel alone, if they feel outside, if they withdraw, if they don't attend, if they're struggling in a course, how can you as a student leader step in and help? It's not always the popular thing to do, but it's what really makes a difference.
Let me just ask you real quick, have you seen other kids in your school that you've seen in that situation and kind of wondered what you could do to help? Is that difficult to kind of be on the outside watching?
Yes, because you don't always know what to say and how to go about it, and sometimes if you try to help, it might come off as being rude or some situation like that, and they don't take it very well, so you never know really what to do, if you should tell someone, because you never really know their situation.
Well, good to know and good information. I'm sure their school counselors can help as well too with that. Shauna?
Thank you, Barry. And joining me now is Trevor S Van Pirin, also a former young hero from 2011. It's great to have you and see you here doing well. Trevor, share just a little bit of your story, because you did have some medical issues that you had to overcome as well.
Yes, in 2008 I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, and I was diagnosed freshman year of high school, so I wasn't able to return to high school until my junior year. And you know, being out of state for my treatment was a big issue. I know the teachers at Louisiana They were really great in keeping me in the classroom. I know that they sent me a video just to keep me connected to the classroom, which brings me to my question is like, how can the ever-evolving technologies that we have to deal with today, how can we use that to keep students connected to the classroom, keep them in that in-class experience, to keep them motivated to keep up with their schoolwork?
And keep them connected. Exactly. That feeling of connection and being a part of. Who wants to take that one? Dr. Luce.
Well, we have a one-to-one laptop program, so all of our high school students, middle school students take home laptops and are connected. So they have that. They're connected through Moodle, so they can be in chat rooms with a teacher. They can do whiteboards with the teachers. And if students are out of school too much, we can even move to virtual classes where they can do the work on their own time, anywhere, anytime, any place. So how do they do that and stay connected? We have teachers that stay connected with them throughout that process. So it kind of depends on the students. Some students can continue even if they're gone. Was mentioned, they're there only 1 or 2 days a week. We can keep them in that same class. Other students work much better in a virtual school type of situation where the teacher keeps them on their own pace and they do things differently. So I think we have to be very flexible to meet the needs of every kid.
Dominic, talk a little bit about that, because you mentioned earlier that you have a student right now who is going through some health challenges as well. What is it like in trying to keep him or her connected to what's going on in the classroom?
Well, keeping him connected is pretty easy for me sometimes, because when he's not having behavior issues, he's really good about saying, hey, Mr. Ricks, could you email me my work? I'll take care of it and I'll have it back next week. But he's also one of those kids that shows males respect and shows females a lot more disrespect. And being his only male teacher, he tends to stay out of class a lot when he is in school because he would be an in-school suspension. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of issues that come with that, but he's pretty good about asking, because our school has the same thing, the one-to-one laptop program.
Yeah.
So he has a laptop that he paid a $40 fee for in the beginning of the year as a deposit, and he keeps the laptop all year.
Yeah, something that we haven't mentioned here tonight, and I'm just wondering if you all would touch on this in terms of reaching male and female students. Is there a big difference there when you're trying to reach those students because of gender? What have you seen? Dominic, you're shaking your head. Yes, big time, huh?
Yeah, it's a huge difference. From the system I teach in, not a lot of male role models. So coming in, I got a lot of respect from some kids who've always wanted that. And I got a lot of disrespect from some kids who never had that and probably didn't want that. I had this one girl just did not like me. Would tell all her female teachers, I do not like that man. Then halfway through the school year, once she got more used to me, I've become one of her favorite teachers. Mm-hmm. Just because I've been there. You know, I've continued to be understanding, even though she'll come in, be really mean to me, say something rude. The next day, for me, it didn't even happen. I could care less. It's a brand new day. Mm-hmm. So I've seen a lot of obstacles. I've seen a lot of benefits. I love having my boys come eat lunch with me in my classroom. Like, me and my guys, like, we're always just learning during lunch. They're like, Mr. Ricks, can you teach us how to do this again? I didn't understand how to write this paragraph. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a powerful moment when you know that you're reaching out to that student and they're really getting something from it besides the education. They're getting that human connection.
Right, and you're in the classroom, but really you're beyond the classroom. I mean, if you're sharing lunch, I mean, there's nothing like breaking bread with someone to try to get to know that person, but really sort of thinking out of the box, it sounds like, is what is really important to sort of reaching these students. Frank, what are your thoughts?
I would agree. It's being where they are. I know oftentimes school counselors, unfortunately, are stuck behind their desk, locked away in their closet, their office, whatever it might be. But I find the more that I have my feet on the grass, the more in connection I am with the students, and the more I'm able to be there and available to them to let them know that I am here. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, you know, and there's that fine line that oftentimes that, you know, they don't need another friend. They need an adult, someone that they can count on, someone that's going to be there for them. Many of them have plenty of friends. They need someone that's present, that's responsible, and that is consistent, and that they can count on.
Yeah. And I guess you have to be sensitive to the needs of boys versus girls
yes,
as well. Is that right?
They are drastically different, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
For the young ladies, I got chocolate and tissues. For the young men, we'll just hug it out and be like, it's going to be all right.
Okay, on that note, let's go back to Barry. Thank you so much.
Well, that's good. It's going to be all right. I have another student here from the Louisiana Leadership Institute. Could you tell us your name? And I know you have a question as well.
Casey, and my question is, how do you encourage students to stay in school?
I think that's an interesting thing in the sense that that's what we've been talking about, and I think kind of what we're hearing is there's not really any one particular silver bullet or single strategy. It seems like it's a very integrated approach that needs to be taken. Jeannie, what's the top thing? I mean, if you had to pick one or two things that are just the very keys, I guess it changes by individual, but what seems to be the thing that works the best?
It does, and I think in our health education issues, we're sometimes dealing man-to-man, having talks, or woman-to-woman, having talks with our young adults and teens, but staying in school is so important, and when we keep it real, and we have real talks with people about real life situations, and in our case of education, we're talking about intimacy and some real human nature things. So when we keep it real, hopefully that helps them to feel like, yes, I can do this, I can reach my goals.
Well, Gail, let me ask you, too, because we had talked just a minute ago about trying to get the workforce, the college and career readiness, all of that kind of more into the discussion and into students' top of minds. Kids are still kids, though, and it takes a while to start focusing on something that seems a very long ways away. Are we really making progress with that? Not just with the programs. I know we've got some great programs in place, but how much progress do you think we're starting to make in terms of bringing the importance of that down to those levels where, frankly, when I was that age, I just didn't really want to think about that. So, but now we're saying, kids, you got to think about it right now. Is it working?
Well, I think we're making some huge shifts. I think we're shifting the mindset of educators, for one thing, and that's a huge thing because they don't always understand the employment aspect that's out there. So helping them understand the work environment so they can give good advice. When a student's on the verge of dropping out, sometimes they need to shift their paradigm, not shift their focus, not shift their goals necessarily. But I've never had an employer say, how long did it take you to finish high school? They say, did you finish high school and what are you doing now? And they really don't care even if you finished high school with an equivalency or a diploma. If you have continued your education, they care about that degree. So if you got a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree, that's where their focus is. So they're interested in what skills you bring to the table and how you acquired those skills and how you're going to use those skills to help their business be a better place to work and be more profitable. So if you can get young people to have those experiences, whether it's virtual, we're working with NEPRIS that brings guest speakers into the classroom via technology, as well as our traditional ways of bringing employers to the table. Whether it's through a field trip, guest speakers, job shadowing, an internship that may be paid or non-paid, when you see that you're bringing value to the table and that you're working with an employer, you have just matured.
Oh, well, thanks very much. Dr. Luce, let me just ask you real quickly, and it's along the lines of the question here about how do you encourage kids to stay in school. One of the things that we've actually seen in our data in Louisiana is not just the recent data that the superintendent was talking about the last few years with improved graduation rates, but we've really seen the numbers of kids in Louisiana that are dropping out reduce significantly really over the last 10 years. I mean, the numbers themselves are much smaller. They're still large, but they're much smaller than they were. Can you attribute that, or is there anything in particular to attribute that to, except maybe the fact that we're paying more attention to it? But it does seem like when you look back to 10 years ago, the numbers are rather stark in terms of the improvement in the number of kids dropping out.
Well, I do think just looking at it, we used to not look at it. Now it is part of our accountability index, and I think that's part of it. But I think part of it is giving kids a purpose and a reason for it. For instance, in our area, and it was mentioned earlier in Jeff Davis Parish as well, the number of skills that are needed and the type of jobs that are out there. And it goes back to the whole Jumpstart program of what's going on with that. We've got a cohort of students that are in 9th grade from both high schools that are starting in that program, and by the time they graduate should have a 2-year degree. And what we're doing is showing them, we have a group of industry partners that we take bus rides, and the students get introduced to plant managers, they get introduced to HR directors, and they understand, they ask questions, how much can a student make? And when they find out things like a student with a P-Tech degree with 3 years of experience can make $120,000 if they work some overtime, it radically changes, and they see light at the end of the tunnel. They see hope. They see that what they can do. And when students see what they can do, they have a purpose, and they'll achieve what they want to achieve.
I know I went into a school and they asked me if I knew how much a football player made. So that's they are interested in the bottom line to some degree. Shauna?
Yeah.
I think they make a lot, right? Thanks so much. Well, joining me now is Ajita Harrison. I hope I said that correctly. Yes, and you are with City Year, and you all actually go into the schools and you work with the teachers and you work with the students to help them. What's your question for the panelists tonight?
My question is, how do you see the achievement gap affecting students, and how do you go about combating it?
And who wants to take that one, Frank?
Well, I think that's a big one. I mean, the achievement gap's different. I mean, really depending on your school and your makeup. For instance, mine, it's white males that are at a lower socioeconomic generally is where the biggest achievement gap exists. And so it's just finding ways to relate with those students. I think Jumpstart's been the biggest thing for me because a lot of those students, they grow up with their, even for me, my family and cousins, uncles, dad, whomever, and all my kids, a lot of their families, they grew up in the construction industry, and that's what they see, and that's what they, that's what they've kind of set their sights on. And so, but what's different from my dad versus this generation is someone could graduate, not even graduate high school, and they would teach them their skill, being a boilermaker, a welder, on the job. But that isn't the case anymore in today's industry. They don't have the time nor the funds to spend to train someone on the job. They want somebody that's coming to them job ready, that has the skills to step onto the job site and to begin work. And so it's important to address that with those students so that they can see what is necessary for them to do what it is that they want to do.
All right. Well, thank you. We are completely out of time. Thank you so much for your question. And I want to say thank you to the audience members tonight. This has just been wonderful, very eye-opening, learned a lot. Barry, it's been great working with you as well. And also we want to say a special thank you to our panelists tonight. We want to thank Frank Finney, Gail Flowers, Dominic Ricks, Jeannie Solis, and Dr. Alonzo Luce. And listen, we would love to get your comments about this program. So please visit our website at lpb.org/public square. And while you're there, check out extended interview clips and additional resources, including a link to prep courses for the high school equivalency test. Now, to see stories about Louisiana dropout prevention champions and perhaps nominate a champion of your own, visit lpb.org/American Graduate.
Well, thanks, Sean. It's been great being here with you tonight. And again, thanks to our audience for their participation. And thank you for watching, and hope you will join us next time on Louisiana Public Square when we look at the impact of budget cuts on higher education on Louisiana research initiatives on Innovation Matters. So thanks again for being with us, and hope you have a great evening.
For a copy of this program, call 1-800-973-7246 or go online to www.lpb.org.
This program is part of American Graduate. Let's make it happen. A public media initiative made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Support for this program is provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and from viewers like you.